This interview was recorded at the 2012 SVS annual meeting in Washington, D.C.
Today we're talking with Dr. Lazar Greenfield, who is not only one of the giants in the history of vascular surgery, but also one of the inventors who's developed several devices that have been used throughout the world. Dr. Greenfield, it's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you.
And we're interested in how you got started in vascular surgery. I noticed that you trained not only in general surgery, but also have boards in cardiothoracic, I believe, as well as vascular surgery. So tell us a little bit about how you got interested specifically in vascular surgery.
I've wanted to be a surgeon since I was 6 years old, living with my grandfather who raised pigeons and chickens. We had a squab fall out of the nest one day, immediately pounced on by the chickens who tried to pick the head off. I rushed over, picked up the squab and took it to my grandfather, who used some iodine on the skin, got a needle and thread, and promptly sewed it up. And I was dazzled by that. You could always recognize the pigeon because he never grew feathers back in that area. So it was easy to see that that had been a real success. And so I stayed interested in surgery, in a variety of other areas, piqued my curiosity. And when I got to medical school, I immediately got a job in pharmacology doing research there. Subsequently got introduced to the surgery department and Dr. DeBakey. At that time, he had a weaver who was actually weaving his grafts in the basement of the medical school. And he was worried about the amount of blood loss that was occurring. So he had the idea of putting coating on the grafts. And as a third-year medical student, I was sewing grafts in dogs to see if we could improve some of the results and cut down on the blood loss. But my subsequent training was actually influenced by Denton Cooley, who encouraged me to go to Hopkins. And so at Hopkins at the time, under Dr. Blaylock, there was just one program that finished you with eligibility for both general and thoracic boards. And my experience there, since selective service was still a requirement, included 2 years at the NIH, where I had the opportunity to work with Glenn Morrow in the cardiac section. And so I had a lot of exposure to cardiac surgery, and that was my primary direction when I finished my training.
At the time that you finished your training and when I did my own, vascular surgery didn't exist as a specialty. And I also noticed that you are board certified in vascular surgery. What do you think the impact will be of both board certification and the subspecialty of vascular surgery on the whole field of surgery?
I think any time that a group of surgeons decides to try to standardize and improve the results of treatment, the patient benefits. And so ultimately I think that vascular surgery as a maturing specialty will continue to be very important in the care of patients.
Do you think that vascular surgery will stay as like a sub-board of the American Board of Surgery? Do you think it'll become as independent as thoracic surgery?
I think it has what I would think is a relatively successful degree of independence. But I hope that it stays connected with general surgery. My experience in dealing with other specialties, particularly through the ACGME, is that anytime you have a small population specialty, you don't have much leverage with other organizations. If you're part of a larger represented specialty, you can generally accomplish much more in terms of satisfying your objectives in various confrontations with other specialties.
You've been the chair of 2 departments of surgery, and I imagine in that role you've worked with a lot of different specialists and a number of different divisions. Did you ever have concern that the specialization and subspecialization led to people not being aware of the advances in fields that were parallel to their own? Is that one of the downsides of specialization, or are there mechanisms for having people work together in their development of their field?
Well, I think getting the focus too narrow is a danger to any specialty. My feeling as it relates to vascular surgery is that vascular surgeons ought to be able to take care of their own complications. And since many of the vascular surgery complications are general surgery problems, it seems logical to me that they retain that ability to be comfortable at least with dealing with general surgery problems. In terms of other specialties, sure, some of them have gone on to virtually isolate themselves in a narrower and narrower area. But I think that surgery is an area where that is less likely because of the variety of things that we do and the fact that we have a very fundamental commitment to take care of our patients' problems.
Now, you've been the chair at two institutions, at the Medical College of Virginia and the University of Michigan. Is the leadership role as being a chair similar at all institutions, the principles the same, or does each job have its own unique challenges?
Yes to both. I think that each medical school environment, each medical center, is a jungle unique to itself, and you have to learn to navigate it in whatever the situation is you happen to find yourself. But the principles are the same in terms of what you try to do as a chair of a department of surgery. I think successful chairs are able to put the needs of the department ahead of their own careers. And if they do that and are successful in finding and cultivating talent, then I think they're able to run a successful department.
Now, how did you measure success? I noticed that at the University of Michigan, you had a jump in research dollars when you were there to one of the top 5 in the country. How do you go about getting research dollars and moving so quickly up the ladder as far as federal support?
I think it's a matter, as I said, of finding talent and providing the resources so that talent can be cultivated to be successful. What I was able to do was to provide the resources that are necessary to support individuals who were either homegrown or we were able to recruit from the outside. A lot of it has to do with the tone that you set in a department as to what your priorities are. And at the time, I think what we needed as a department at Michigan was to increase the emphasis on research. And by doing that, we were able to move up to the number 4 position nationally.
Well, you must have been very successful, because at the end of your time at Michigan, you were then promoted to become the interim CEO of the hospital. How did you get selected for that, and did that require that you give up your job as the chief of surgery?
It was sort of a unique timing arrangement, because I had decided to step down as chair after 15 years at Michigan, having already been 13 years as a chair at Medical College of Virginia. So at that time, at age 67, I figured that it was time for new leadership for the department. And I was in the midst of preparing to do what I had always wanted to do, which was a sabbatical at the FDA. I had a standing invitation from the Medical Devices Center at the FDA to come there. And then what happened was the University of Michigan got a new president, Mary Sue Coleman, and she wanted someone to serve as executive vice president for medical affairs and run the health system for a period of a year, which I agreed to do. So that just happened to coincide with my retirement from the position of chair.
Everybody needs mentors, including people who achieved the stature that you did. Were there particular individuals that were great mentors to you other than Dr. DeBakey? And who did you go to for advice when you were making these decisions as to whether to move from Medical College of Virginia to University of Michigan? Do you decide on those things by yourself, or do you get some input from friends of yours?
Well, I'm lucky to have a lot of friends in whom I have a great deal of confidence, and so I do talk to them. And for example, Frank Spencer has been a mentor since my days at Hopkins. The time that I spent at the NIH with Glenn Morrow was particularly helpful to me, since he emphasized the need to become a more accomplished writer, and he taught me a lot about how to write good, readable publications. I've also been fortunate to be exposed to some very good chairmen. My first chairman was at the University of Oklahoma, John Schilling, who ran a very small department, but did it so well that it was possible for us to be successful in a variety of responsibilities. I was doing a lot of different kinds of surgery in my first job there as chief of surgery at the VA. In fact, I did the first kidney transplant in Oklahoma, fortunately in collaboration with a urologist who had some transplantation experience. But the opportunity to do a variety of things, I think, and to be supported well by whoever you're working for is key to success.
You've been one of the great ambassadors for vascular surgery, not only in the United States, but as a visiting professor throughout the world. Why is it important for someone in your position, in a leadership position, to travel? And do you think that we should be doing more of that as American vascular surgeons, to get more exposure throughout the world?
I think there's a lot to be gained in both directions. That is, I think we can learn from ideas that other people have, and certainly they're not limited by any geography. Good ideas come to people who are so inclined to think creatively. But the other side of it, the ability to attract talent from other countries, I think has always been a resource for success in this country. We have a fine record of providing a supportive environment for trainees and for people who just want to spend time in a laboratory from another country. And there's a great deal to be gained from that.
When you were in Oklahoma, you developed a device named after you, the Greenfield vena cava filter, which really changed the way that we manage venous thrombosis. How did you come up with the idea for a vena cava filter?
The story behind the filter is a little more involved than most people know, because obviously it came from a bad experience in trying to manage a young man with massive pulmonary embolism who subsequently died, although I had put him on bypass and been able to extract the clots. My concern at that time was the need to have an alternative to putting a patient on bypass and doing a very big operation on a desperately ill patient. So I thought that it ought to be possible to extract clots from the pulmonary circulation, and got the idea of putting a cup device on the end of a catheter. I'd had a lot of catheter experience at the NIH, and I was very comfortable putting catheters into the pulmonary artery. So I was able to work with a petroleum engineer who fashioned a cup that could be attached, screwed onto the end of a catheter, and began to pull clots out of patients. And actually we saved a series of 10 patients that we subsequently reported, but many of them had recurrent pulmonary emboli even after we extracted the clots and got them out of shock. So in further discussions with this petroleum engineer, he said, you know, this whole business of of moving clots in the circulation is a lot like the problem we have with sludge in the pipelines. The sludge gets stuck in the valves and we have to dig them up and it's just a big mess. And he said what we do is to use a cone-shaped trap because the geometry of the cone allows you to fill it up to 70% of its depth and yet flow continues around it. So with that fundamental concept, we sat down together and designed a device that could serve biologically to trap clots in the circulation. Those devices were initially put together in the garage of one of his workers, and we began putting them in dogs, and 2 years later we were able to put them in patients. But in terms of the sequence of management, I've always thought that the catheter embolectomy was really the best idea I ever had. The filter just happened to come along with it. But the filter, of course, has had the lasting success for the past 40 years. So I think it is a testimony to the value of collaboration with people, not necessarily in your own discipline, but people who just have ways of solving problems that you may not be familiar with.
And how many of your own named vena cava filter have been placed throughout the world, and how many total vena cava filters? Do you have any idea how many have been placed throughout the world?
I don't have any real number. I'd heard a number of 600,000 in the past in terms of what had been distributed from Boston Scientific many years ago. I don't know how many have been used overall, but I do know that it is still in use in some places. And I think, you know, as design improvements occur, and they must occur, the importance of retaining the cone concept is what to me has value for the patient.
And do you have any advice to surgeons who get an idea for a device as to how they should go about pursuing, or any bits of wisdom that you learned from your experience?
My advice has always been to obviously pursue a good idea, but not to try to do everything by yourself. I think that what surgeons underestimate is the amount of work that is required to bring a product to market and then to successfully distribute it and deal with the marketplace. So my advice has always been to find a company that has integrity and that has some bioengineers and to work with them to bring the device to market.
You've had research awards in your name at both the Medical College of Virginia and University of Michigan. How have they impacted the careers of the people who have received those research awards?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I know they make me very proud when I see the quality of the work that gets done by those individuals. And one of the things I look forward to every year is still going back to Michigan to hear the presentations of the award recipients. I think the important feature of any specialty research award is to encourage bright young people to get interested in and pursue that particular area of investigation. And if it can do that, then I'm delighted to see smart people go into vascular surgery.
Now, you've had several awards given to you that are very distinguished. I think the list of them includes the René Lariche Prize, the Roswell Park Medal, the Jacobson Innovation Award of the American College of Surgeons. You've had the Surgical Forum dedicated to you, and you've also been a Markle Scholar. What have these awards meant to you? Are these things that recognize a career, or have they had some special meaning, each of them that you've received?
Well, the most important award to me at the time was the Markle. That was, many people don't know about it now, but it was a way to recognize a young investigator in a very tangible way with a large sum of money. You got $30,000, and at the time that I was starting out and trying to support the research effort, that was a very big deal for me. So the Markle was a very important award at the time. And it also allowed me to meet other Markle Award winners, many of whom went on to very successful careers in other special areas. And the other award that was particularly special to me was, of course, the Jacobson Award, because of my respect and admiration for Jack Jacobson.
I was interviewing Jack Connolly,
Yes.
and he was another person. I guess there were several surgeons who received the Markle Award, but it wasn't exclusively, as I understand it, just for surgeons. Is that
Oh, not
correct?
at all. No, it was, in fact, most of the award winners were in other specialty areas.
Yeah.
And many of them went on to become deans and leaders in many different ways.
Tell us about some of the other mentors that were important to you in your career. Was there anybody else that had a particular impact on you?
Well, as I say, I was fortunate to be in contact with very talented people all along the way. One of the most important to me was my co-resident at Hopkins. Hopkins had a pyramidal, very competitive program with only 2 able to finish out of the 12 who started. And my co-resident who finished with me was Paul Ebert. So Paul and I were lifelong friends and colleagues, and that was a particularly valuable connection for me.
As I understand it, he was a very good athlete. Did you ever play basketball against him or tennis?
You couldn't. There was nothing with a stick and ball that Paul couldn't do with ease. And it was a challenge always just to play golf with him. You know, it was easy for him. Very frustrating to the rest of us.
All of us learn from mistakes. Do you remember any particular mistakes you made as a vascular surgeon that were real learning experiences?
Well, I guess as a vascular surgeon, my mistakes that I recall had a lot to do with not knowing the best exposure to get the job done. And this was particularly true when I was early on dealing with pretty significant trauma to the upper abdominal aorta. I was always trying to do that through the abdomen when it would have been a lot easier to come in from the flank. But on the technical side, one thing that I failed to appreciate as we began to put filters in patients was the need to learn a little bit more about the interface between biology and metallurgy, because some of the first filters that were brazed after a few years began to come apart. And it became important to realize that metals behave differently in a biological environment. So I had to get schooled in that to be sure that subsequent devices didn't have that particular problem.
What would you consider to be your greatest contribution to vascular surgery? Is it the Greenfield filter, or mentoring people, or being a leader of a department? What do you see as your greatest contribution?
I have no way of knowing that. I think the one thing that I hope people would learn from my experience is the value of collaboration, and collaboration not only within your own discipline, but outside your discipline as well.
Tell us a little bit about your family and how you've been able to integrate a career that's been so distinguished and I'm sure so demanding as far as time with a family life. What has your family life been like, and maybe tell us a little bit about that and your children.
Well, I've really been very lucky. I married the best possible woman 56 years ago, and she has managed to sustain the family in periods of time when we were in a variety of moves and changes and stresses that always come along with new opportunities and the chances to work elsewhere. But along the way, some of the stresses were pretty significant for my kids. In moving from Oklahoma to the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond, in 1974, had to take my oldest son out of high school just as he was entering his senior year and about to become editor of the school paper, and force him into a new environment. But he handled that well, and he's now the chair of the Department of Neurology at the University of Arkansas. So he managed to survive and do very well. But my other kids are quite remarkable as well, and in terms of their accomplishments. My daughter is a very successful fiber artist, and my youngest son is a successful attorney in Philadelphia. So I'm proud of all of them, and give most of the credit to my wife, who was a single parent for many of those years when I was occupied elsewhere.
What are your interests since you retired from surgery? Do you still keep contact in vascular surgery and medicine, or as a consultant, or have you done very little with medicine since you've retired?
I don't have any illusions about keeping up, because I don't think you really can unless you're actively involved in doing casework. But I have retained an interest in medical devices, and last year I was part of an Institute of Medicine committee reviewing the 510K mechanism for evaluation of new medical devices, and have continued to work with the FDA and as a consultant, most recently in Canada, to try to improve ways in which devices can be evaluated and improved over time. So that's been the primary focus of interest. And I like to write. I continue to write. So I have an interest, but I don't have any illusions about staying current in medicine.
What do you see as the greatest challenges to vascular surgery in the future?
I think they're the same as for any specialty area. You have to stay relevant. You have to continue to evolve and do so in a way that is cost effective. I think for many years, we as vascular surgeons didn't really pay much attention to the cost of the services we were providing to patients. I don't think we have that luxury anymore. I think that the cost problem is going to continue to be a significant one, and that needs to be part of the evolution of vascular surgery.
Is there anything else that the world should know about the distinguished career of Lazar Greenfield?
I doubt it.
Well, we've learned a lot, but I just thought there might be something else that you'd want to mention, since hopefully people will be looking at this video 20, 50, 100 years from now.
Well, I wish them a lot of luck if they do. I've had a very good time at what I've done, and the one thing that I think should be encouraging to other people is that if you are able to pursue your interest in a particular area and have the right support system, it is a remarkably happy way to live your life.
Well, thanks very much for telling us about your life.
Thank you.